But what is far more exciting, Husk, Eternal Reaper, which is the other legendary for Death Knight. A 4-mana, 5/3 undead. Battlecry, give your hero deathrattle, spend up to 20 corpses to resurrect with that much health. Yes, you heard
Megasa,
that right.
how do you feel about this card?
So I had a bit of a roller coaster with this card. My first thought was, are you kidding me?
Welcome to episode 518 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, October 9th, 2025, in the evening. Coming to you from Numergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, NY Kiwi, Spine, Proby1, and by our patrons of the week, Griffin and Incredible Plum. You can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help support the show in the process. If you'd like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder, as you may have heard discussed on previous show, maybe I actually cut it out so it's just on the raw feed. Wicked informed me that Ghost of Yotei was out, and so
My fault. Okay.
Yeah, that's my week. That's what happened. I did all the regular life stuff that needs to be done, and I played Ghost of Yotei, and that's about it.
That's fair. Is it good? I assume it's good.
It is good. There was an adjustment period for me where I was like, oh man, I think this game would hit so much better for me if I were not remembering the first one, right? And I think I was just like a little bit impatient in terms of like, how did all this unfold? Like, you've got to play for kind of a while before you learn exactly what happened. And I've come around on all that. But the gameplay from the jump, phenomenal, right? They have not changed the formula, but they have added on to it to streamline things. Like, you can truly play this game however you want to play, and you get fast travel right from the start, which is
even better.
Great. Yeah. So,
if I wanted to ride a horse, I'd play that horse anime game.
I mean, like, you still need to go through Fog of War to like find the things, but yeah, once you've been to a place, you can fast travel right from the start. That's just nice.
Wow. I started a new save on Hades 2. So I've been playing that. And that's been at home, and then on the train I've been getting further through Trails in the Sky first chapter again. I got to a particular scene that I should not have been playing on the train because it nearly made me cry again. And it hits harder in 3D, I'll tell you that much. So yeah, and that ending, I know what's coming in the ending, and I need to make sure I'm not playing that on the train because I probably will cry, and that's going to be hard to explain to a bunch of surly New Englanders when I get there. But it is it is very good, and I am glad that I did it, and I am really hoping that they're going to remake a second chapter also. But in the game that we're actually here to talk about, okay. So we have reached the point of the meta where I've lived long enough to become the villain, at least in my cracked worldview. Which is to say that I started playing an aggro deck. And generally hating myself for it, but I haven't been playing it full time because I will generally. Well, I started playing Elemental Mage because I was going through HS Guru, and that had a good win rate, and that got me up into like the Diamond 3 area. Just because I like don't have the patience for all these dirtily decks that I'm having to play against, and if I'm playing a dirtily deck and they're playing a dirtily deck, then we dirtle forever, and like I have places to be. At this point, I must be. Maybe this is just me getting older and I'm losing my patience. I don't know what it is, But
there was like a moment when I thought, oh, for the event quest, fine, I'll just play a little bit of DK and I'll get it. And then I thought, no, I'm going to hit mirrors. There is no way I'm playing DK.
Well, I actually did the opposite because I could not play this once the event quest started, because the event quest, if you haven't been playing this week, the event quest wants you to heal, 350 times? It's not even health, it's times, right?
No, I think it's health.
Or is it health? Yeah, like +1 ranked, +1 leeches, +1 something else. I forgot, or +1, yeah, +1 life steal. So it's like the quest may as well say just play Death Knight, stupid. And when I started trying to play this on Tuesday after the quest rolled, it was all Death Knights, and like this deck really wants to do like 30 to 35 damage quickly, and that is a lot harder against decks that are incentivized heavily to play leeches, both because you really don't want to send your damage into minions if you can help it, which you kind of have to with the leeches, and also the leeches are healing repeatedly. So then I just switched over to the Death Knight, and then didn't see another Death Knight or Quest Warlock, which is kind of the other one that I don't know if it's a bad matchup, but I struggle a little bit with it sometimes because it depending on how quickly they finish the quest, because there's no way to not play minions into them getting the lifesteal Fell Beast. And if they can get that 5 healing a couple times, it kind of puts you out of range. So I ended up switching to Death Knight, didn't see anything like that, and then started seeing some things that were kind of bad for the Death Knights. I'm like, okay, fine, let me just switch back to the Mage. It's science. Right back into Quest Warlocks and Death Knights. It's, you know, you can set your watch to it. So I don't know which way I'm going, but this was mostly at lunch today, and I didn't really have time to be playing drawn out Death Knight games. So I switched to the Mage, and then ended up with drawn out Death Knight games. Just I wasn't the protagonist. So, you know, it is what it is. But hopefully I'll be able to get myself over the line this weekend, though my oldest is home from college this weekend, so hopefully that means that we will be playing Commander somewhere, and that might get in the way of my ladder grinding, but we will see what happens. How about you, Megasa?
Well, I have not been playing Hades 2, mostly because I've been trying to decide whether I need like a keyboard, like whether I can do a keyboard and mouse, whether I should do a controller. If I'm doing keyboard and mouse, I have to be like sitting up at a desk like a normal person, and I basically only do that for the podcast. Or if I'm doing remote tutoring. So it feels like this is gaming to me.
This is a good excuse for you to buy a Steam Deck, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, anyway, we'll figure it out. But I have actually played a decent amount of Hearthstone, in part because I'd really fallen behind on the event quest, and I actually kind of do want that portrait. And I thought, I should play a little bit more. So I've been trying a bunch of strange things, though. Someone baited me in the Discord with Quest Priest. And I knew it was bait, but I played it anyway, and I have not been punished for it. I'm actually positive with the Quest Priest. Now, listener, play at your own risk. But when it works, it works quite well. Often you can get it done quite quickly. I mean, I think I even had like a turn 6 sometimes. I had one game against a Quest Warlock where I completed my quest before they completed theirs, partly because they weren't super fast on it, but still. And then I also played a crew Demon Hunter from World 8, which is linked in the show notes. And it's just an aggro DH where we're really trying to get Deirdre. I think the one I have linked in the show notes is not the most recent one, but if you can get really fast, just board of 4/4s and then another board of 4/4s. A lot of decks can't really clear 4 health. They can clear 3, they can't clear 4. And you can get them buffed up higher with some of the other Draenei. So that felt pretty good. I think I didn't play a ton of games with that. I went 5-3. And then today, after I also played some Elemental Mage to clear the like playing fire spells part of the quest, but Death Knights is not the favorite matchup for that. I played some Bandage Priest. I've just been like bopping around. And then Enzo posted the latest version of his Enrage Warrior. And I was like, okay, I'm just in Diamond anyway, whatever. I'm going to give this a try. And I'm 3-1 with it so far. And the loss, they immediately added me after to say, what a cool deck, what is this? So I'll count that as a win. Even though it was a grindy game against a big spell druid, of all things. They were running like the big spell mage package with the tourist. But they were a druid and ramping, which is one way to play big spells.
They were friending you to say, what the hell are you playing?
Yeah. That's how crazy. So the by Enraged Warrior, I really mean like a Draco Rex warrior. So the version that I was playing doesn't even have Tortola, although I think he's put Tortola back in. But you kind of actually want to become spilling Draco Rex. And then you can also get a bunch of illusory green wings if you haven't found Draco Rex. And you kind of win with repeatedly getting those back. But then you can also win, and you can make copies with Nablaya, and Succumb to Madness, and the Clutch of Corruption location that makes a 0/2 egg that hatches into a copy. And then you can also, there's one copy of Expedition Sergeant, which is the next Draenei you play immediately attacks a random enemy, and then you have Akama. So that's not necessarily how you win every time, but it's like sometimes you Akama kill them. I don't think I'm playing this super well. Like, I don't feel like I get the ins and outs fully the way that Enzo does, but so far so good. And I have also put that in the show notes. I appreciate having some fun and different stuff to play while we look at the new cards and think about fun and different stuff that we could play with them. And I've also even got my husband back into playing a little bit. He saw that Elemental Mage is good, and that was his favorite deck that he played before. And so he thought, aha, I can not have to learn that much new stuff and just play Elemental Mage. So,
yay, not learning.
And I got him one of the ladder variety decks. I think the one he would like the best is actually Quest Paladin, but he already had most of the cards for that, so I got him Quest Warlock instead, I think. But he's just been rocking Elemental Mage. And when you're playing at that level, it's a very different game. I mean, he had a game where he got the opponent to 1, but couldn't kill him. The opponent had like plenty on board to kill him. And he had, it's Elemental Mage. He has no taunts. I guess he didn't have a Blob of Tar up, because that's really the only taunt you could have, right? And the opponent just conceded because they were at 1 without checking for lethal. And I think that, a lot of inexperienced players just look at like, how do I clear the opponent's board? Am I dead? And not forget to look for lethal. I mean, experienced players also will forget to look for lethal, but it's like, okay, well, don't concede. See if they're going to notice or not. So,
I mean, defeated by math is a win con, I suppose, but
yeah, the deck tracker having the number on the left of how much your board is like cheating. Yeah. It's so helpful. I mean, sometimes I will. Teaching math, you get better at mental math. I also have like a program on my computer where I can pull it up and type to do anything on it, but one of them is a calculator, so I'll really quick type in 5 times 3 plus 4 plus this. What is that? Because I need to figure out whether I have lethal quickly before I start doing stuff. So I've been known to do that for sure. To count it up just to make sure that I'm accurate. If it's like starting to be a full board plus like a couple spells in hand, I'm like, nope, I'm not that fast. I'm a faster typist than thinker.
I've been known to keep notes on my phone for cheat sheets for math for card games, both for this one and for other ones. So there's no shame in that. Like,
nope.
Sometimes doing speed math is not necessarily, a skill that everybody has. It's one thing to do math if you have 20 minutes to figure it out. It's another thing if you have 75 seconds. Do what you can. Anyway, we have a tiny bit of news, and then we've got a whole lot of new cards to talk about, and then we're going to go do that right now.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So the first bit of news is really more of a programming note. Which is that we have a card reveal next next Wednesday. So we normally stream on Thursdays. Next week we're going to be streaming on Wednesday, October 15th. I believe it's 8:30. The reveal schedule says 8 right now, and it doesn't have a link to us, but hopefully we'll get that fixed ahead of time. We are most likely going to start streaming the episode before that and then aim to do the reveal at 8:30. Because it'll be kind of in the middle of the episode, not necessarily at the beginning, but we'd love it if you stayed with us for the entire episode. But certainly if you want to be there for the reveal, I believe that's 8:30 p.m. Eastern on October 15th. It will be Demon Hunter. Unfortunately, not Priest, because we've already seen those, but we have some Demon Hunter cards to reveal. So please do join us on stream for that. And thanks again to Blizzard and the Hearthstone team for entrusting us with a card reveal for this set. It is always an honor and never anything that we rely on or expect, and we're always happy to be included when they do decide to provide those. So we're looking forward to that next week.
Yep.
So aside from that, there is precious little news this week, as a lot of the news is really just leading up to the expansion. There was a hotfix on Friday the 3rd. We actually saw it right before we recorded last week and didn't have any information about it, so we didn't mention it, but it turns out it was a Unity security update, which is why it was like a 2.5 gig update that randomly dropped on a Friday. So no new features or anything, but still, you probably have gotten that update by now. If you were wondering why the hell was there a 2.5 gig update with no news or post or anything, that's what happened. You don't have to worry about it. It's fixed, but it's important to do. There was also patch 33.6.2. It is almost exclusively Battlegrounds. I think it is exclusively Battlegrounds, actually. There's some Battlegrounds balance changes. They're introducing anomalies. If you are interested in Battlegrounds, it is worth your time to read through those patch notes, but there is nothing for Constructed. There are no balance changes. There's not even any bug fixes. Just purely Battlegrounds. So if you don't play Battlegrounds, you can safely ignore that patch. There is also there's a new legendary quest chain in the game. If you have been taking a break from the game and you're just listening to keep up with the reveals, you may just want to go in and launch the client and play a couple of games before this expires. I'm not sure how long it's going to be available, but it's a pretty easy legendary quest chain. It's play 1 ranked standard game to get an Across the Timeways pack, then play 2 ranked standard games to get an Across the Timeways pack and a Lost City of Ungoro pack, and then win 1 ranked standard game to get a golden Across the Timeways pack and a regular Across the Timeways pack. So well worth your time to do it. Even if you're burned out on standard and you're taking a break, just go in and get those quests taken care of so you have some more packs for the new expansion. And yeah, that's it for news. That's really all there is. So, which just leaves us a little bit more time to talk about cards. So we're going to go do that right now.
All right, so we had 4 classes revealed in this week as of when we're recording on Thursday, October 9th. Those 4 classes were Death Knight, Paladin, Priest, and Hunter. So we're going to talk about each of them, not every single card, but the sort of packages, the legendaries, what directions we think we might be able to go with these cards. I did want to note one quick thing about Fabled, which we talked about last week. That was the mechanic where a single legendary card comes with more cards when you put it into your deck. A Blizzard employee clarified on Reddit that Fabled cards cannot be randomly generated. So you can't, if you have a card that says discover a legendary minion, you're not going to discover, say, the Sylvanas from Hunter that we talked about last week, or the other 2 that come with it. but you can still find them from a card like Discover a Minion from your deck, because then you're not generating it, right? Then it's already in your deck. So just a quick note to have on that. But I thought we would start with Death Knight, and as our resident fan of Death Knight, I will let Edelweiss take the lead on that.
So, yeah, we can start with the Fable card for Death Knight, which is Talanji of the Graves. Not priest as I had expected, but
Good. They can have
it's
her.
kind of like an alternate universe on a lot of these.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
actually, the first thing I thought when I saw this was I messaged Wicked and said, "We're saved. It's Death Knight."
but actually pretty decent. So 4 mana 4/5, fabled of course. Battle cry. Draw Bwansamdi or resurrect him if he has died. Choose a boon to give him. She is undead, and then Bwansamdi gets added to your deck as part of this card. 6 mana 6/6 deathrattle, also undead. Summon a random 4-cost minion. Any boons given to Bwansamdi carry over. And then there is What Befell Zandalar, which is a 3 mana spell. Deal 2 damage to all enemies. Choose a boon to give Bwansamdi. Well, what are the boons? There's only 3 of them, so it's not like you would miss out on any like make a choice where you'll never be able to get that later. But there's Boon of Power. Give Bwansamdi taunt permanently. Minions summoned by his death rattle cost 2 more. All of them have that text of minions summoned by his death rattle cost 2 more. Boon of Longevity. Give Bwansamdi lifesteal permanently. And then Boon of Speed. Give Bwansamdi rush permanently. So yeah, just like increasing the 2 cost means you can get it up to 10, right? Because it starts at 4. Each of these increases it by 2. So the first boon will summon a 6-drop, then 8-drop, then 10-drop.
Do you get 1 copy of What Befell Zandalar or 2 copies in your deck?
I believe you get 1.
Okay. So, because Bwansamdi doesn't give himself a boon, right? So you would have to.
Oh no, you're right. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I was thinking that. Yeah.
So you'd have to
okay.
somehow get another copy of Talanji, which I mean, there are cards to do. There's the one that lets you spend courses to get a copy of a card from your deck, which you might run in a deck that's doing
Right.
this. So there are ways to get it bigger, but if you're only running the Fable Passage with no ways to copy it, then you're only getting 2 on it.
Yeah, that's right. And with no way to generate, you can't like discover more What Befell Zandalar. You can pick sort of, do you want Taunt Lifesteal? Do you want Lifesteal Rush? Do you want Taunt Rush is probably the least common coupling, and you would get it to 8 cost.
Which is still good. It's still very good. Yeah.
Kind of a fine package on its own. No special runes, right? So anything can run this. And it's 3 spaces in your deck, but it's very efficient, right? I mean, you don't really want to play Bwansamdi without any boons, I feel like, because then he's just a 6 mana 6/6 death rattle summon a random 4 cost. But there's maybe some merit to doing that if it means that you're gonna resurrect him. And in general, you might resurrect him a bunch because there's a card, Memoriam Manifest, where you summon the highest cost friend. Interesting that it doesn't say resurrect, but it says summon the highest cost friendly undead that died this game. So if you have sort of curated your deck such that Bwansamdi is your highest cost undead, as long as you don't get unlucky and like roll an undead minion from his death rattle, you could potentially summon him 2 more times, and I believe he would keep the boons because they are granted permanently. So that could be sort of a fun little package of with the Fabled, it's going to get weird, right? That would be 5 spots in your deck, even though you're only dragging in 2 cards of Talanji and Memoriam Manifest.
And I mean, there is some argument, right, that you might want to play Bwansamdi first and get another proc of it, right? Like, because
Yeah.
Talanji will draw or resurrect him. So, like, it's not the worst thing in the world if you're going to play a naked Bwonsamdi and then get it from Talanji later with a boon. I mean, if you're doing the more, what is it? Oh, it's too long of a word and they have too many syllables. Memoria Manifest. That's too many syllables. If you're doing that, right, you might not want to, just because you might get the naked one back.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not on that plan specifically, then it might not be that bad. And also, we still have like Brittlebone Buccaneer and stuff like that can give reborn, so we can
True.
get multiple procs to this thing. So
Yeah,
there's
you
some
could do-
cute things you could do.
You can do Orbital Moon, right? Like there's a world where you pick Rush Taunt because you can Orbital Moon for the lifesteal at least one time.
I mean, maybe you're running Eternal Layover in a deck like this, like
maybe, yeah.
You know.
There's lots of ways to potentially get a bunch. I think what it probably comes down to is like, if you draw Talanji first, you will just play her because then you want to draw Bwonsamdi.
Yeah.
But if you draw Bwonsamdi first, then yeah, you'll play him so that you can resurrect him.
Yeah. It's like in the old days when we had Kronks and Galakrond, and like Kronks would either draw Galakrond or it would do some big effect if you already were Galakrond, but also sometimes you just played Kronks to get Galakrond because you really needed Galakrond down, and it was fine, right?
Yeah. So, this isn't like a potent win condition or anything, but it is reasonable value that might merit a spot in your deck. Can kind of go in anything. And yeah, we'll just have to sort of see how it plays, whether because 6 mana 6/6 is sort of but what is far more exciting, still not a win condition, but more exciting, is Husk Eternal Reaper, which is the other legendary for Death Knight. A 4 mana 5/3 undead battlecry. Give your hero death rattle, spend up to 20 corpses to resurrect with that much health. Yes, you heard that right.
How do you feel about this card?
So I had a bit of a roller coaster with this card, which was being called Corpse Block in the after Ice Block.
I think I called it Lice Block is I think what I called it, but yeah.
So my first thought was, are you kidding me? The Death Knight doesn't even die when I kill them. But when I thought about it a little bit more, I was like, okay, it's not quite Ice Block, right? Like, it has advantages, but it also has disadvantages compared to Ice Block. So the first thing is, you can kill them on the same turn that this procs, if you can do enough damage after you proc it. I assume that any excess damage, like if they have 1 health and you do 5, that extra 4 is lost, right? Because then they'll heal up.
Yes.
But if you can still then do however much health they have, do that damage, they can still die that turn. So it's not Ice Block. It doesn't guarantee them another turn. Also, they have to have corpses. So it conflicts with, say, Corpse Explosion. And Edel, you'll be able to speak to this better than me, what you think about the corpse management. But I thought, okay, I can see how many corpses they have. They're having to balance how much do I save corpses for Husk Eternal Reaper versus how much do I use corpses for other things. So I kind of talked myself down. I think it could still be a strong card. It's notably not Blood Runed. I think people were just kind of assuming that it was a Blood Rune card, but you can play this with other... you could play this in a somewhat more aggressive deck where maybe you're not using Corpse Explosion, you have more things on board, and you just want to be able to better go face. This is what I think of course. If we get like a Frost Unholy or Unholy card where you just want to be able to go face and not worry as much about dying, it might conflict a little bit with like Foam Render and Corpsicle in that case, but especially once those rotate, like I could see this being good for that too. And it's certainly like a showstopper card. I will give it that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the fact that it doesn't make you immune until your next turn, right? It doesn't guaranteed buy you a whole additional turn. It just says, okay, Death Rattle, you now have as much life as you had corpses, maximum of 20. and then if they can deal that, then you still go down. But I think it is a really interesting sort of use of corpses. 20 is a lot. So I think very frequently this will be proccing considerably less than 20. And as you say, corpse explosion can kind of conflict there. I think there's sort of like, certain matchups where corpse explosion ends up spending more than other matchups. Like there's some matchups where corpse explosion is never really gonna proc more than 5 or 6, right? Because you're against something aggressive, and so there they probably will have a considerable number of corpses. But in sort of more drawn out matchups against some of these decks like Starship DK or other things, right, where you can like spend all your corpses in one massive corpse explosion, especially against like Egg Warlock, right, with Egg of Kelos. Like there you're spending all your corpses to try and clear the 2020s. You're not really gonna have anything left over. I do think this incentivizes going back to, at least in control stuff, like Pyro Poison, because that doesn't cost any corpses and gives you a full clear. It's an exciting card that I think is very interesting for opening up. I don't know, different things for Death Knight. There is a world, right, where maybe Death Knight figures out some kind of combo thing it wants to build towards, where you're not really spending corpses on anything else. And so this is just sort of like this is going to sit there and and protect me somewhat. I think Elise helps a lot because if you get the rushers, that is one way that you can have another like 9 corpses potentially if you do the 5 cost location. It just is something to think about. This you can discover more of, but it has to have like procced before you can like play the next one.
Yeah.
I think it would be wasted if you, or even if they do stack, like they don't, like they'd all be used up at once. I don't know which way it is. It does have an interesting interaction with Wheel, but apparently I will find and put in the notes if I can the specific post, but one of the same Blizzard employee on Reddit apparently said that Wheel of Death will trigger again on turn 6 if it didn't kill them on turn 5, and then keep going like that. Also, so it's not a hard counter to Wheel, but it can potentially buy you a turn, although it still lowers your health, right? So if you had, 50 health, and then you get killed by Wheel, you're going to resurrect with your corpse's amount of health, which is less. So it's not like a Wheel can just never kill Death Knight now, which is kind of the initial thought that a lot of people had looking at this.
Yeah. I mean, it is also a 4-drop that you could summon from a naked Bonsomdi. Like, you'd have to be very lucky. But it is a thing that you could get.
This is a battle cry. You'd have to put it back in your hand.
Oh, it is a battle cry. You'd have to get it back in your hand. That's fair. But yeah, and I guess like if they ever print anything that replays battle cries again that Death Knight has access to, that is something that could be a little bit more interesting, where you die, you proc this, and you play the thing that replays the battle cries after you died. But I mean, realistically, I think where this is going to go is in a deck that is not playing Stitch Giant, right? Like you are playing this in a deck where you're not interested in spending your corpses, which we've had plenty of Death Knights that have been that way, right? Like it's only been more recently that spending corpses has been a pretty significant feature of Death Knight, but we've had plenty of Death Knights that just accumulated 1 million corpses and never spent them. And those are going to be the decks where Husk is going to be a little bit better. I would be pretty nervous about playing this in like the current foam render deck, just because you generally play so close to the ground that it's not going to do much for you, and it's really just going to be like a speed bump.
My concern is that this is a single card that you can put in Starship Death Knight to just make it better.
Yeah.
And I would like that deck to disappear.
Well, it will in 6 months.
Yeah. But Death Knight did get some other cards, largely around like, I don't know. There's not like a ton of direction.
I mean, there's like yo-yoing health is kind of
I guess that's sort of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of cost health, you've got Forgotten Millennium, which is an 8 mana blood and unholy rune spell. Fill your hand with random undead. They cost health instead of mana this turn. So if you do have a really high life total, you could run this and fill your board with a bunch of stuff. It will hurt a lot. And I guess the idea, right, is that you take Husk and that's sort of a safety valve for you. And then you can play something like Forgotten Millennium, spend your extra health that you've gained with leeches or whatever on Forgotten Millennium, get a big board. They will generate more corpses then to, let you survive with Husk resurrecting you. It's kind of interesting.
It just occurred to me, you theoretically could heal yourself with Husk Eternal Reaper by killing yourself on your own turn if you were at less than 20 health.
Well, you can't actually. I don't think it'll let you spend health to die. I think we've seen that before. I don't think you can, like, when you are going to play a card that costs health, like we've seen this in Warlock, I don't think it'll let you play a card if that will actually kill you. I don't know how that plays with the Husk Death Rattle, but I would assume that it works the same way.
Yeah, but you can get yourself low and then just hit something with a weapon.
Yeah, sure. But the other thing that's interesting about this card is that you don't have to play the minions.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
So you could just play a couple of them, and then, or maybe play like one big one, get something down, and then play them over the course of the next couple turns, and they just cost normal mana. So you don't have to play them right away, and they don't go away at the end of the turn if you don't play them.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I almost like it. It's value, but value that you get more of depending on how much your hand is gone. So, if there is sort of a more aggressive Blood Unholy list, or maybe even like hand buff or something, where you play this, you get a whole bunch of stuff, you throw some of them out for health, keep some other ones back. Like, it could just be a next wave for something.
I mean, you're going to see this more in Mage than Death Knight, I would assume.
I guess. There's also Blood Draw, which is a shadow spell, 3 mana, kind of, except it's just discover a spell, and this Blood Draw costs health instead of mana. So it costs 3 health, not 3 mana. And this I don't know how I feel about, because just straight up discover a spell is like, it's usually an effect that we get like on a minion or on something, right? Like it's you would not pay 3 mana for just discover a spell, right? But the fact that you're paying 3 health instead of 3 mana is sort of like, well, so it's free. I'm not sure if this ends up being like worth a card slot in your deck, basically, for like the flexibility of discovering a spell, because that's still not as good as just like running a copy of a spell you want. But there's flexibility there.
You did play Renew in Priest, right?
Yes,
and
that healed you
in a 4-set meta, not now, but like in a 4-set meta where there's smaller discover pools, I could see maybe running these to get a third copy of a spell that you want.
For sure, yeah. So maybe that's what it'll take, is like a smaller pool, rather than what we're entering here, which is 6-set. But it is like free, and if there are things that care about casting spells, right, that could be important there.
Or shadow spells. It is a shadow spell. If you have,
right.
I don't remember if there's a Shadow Kindred for Death Knight, but that would potentially proc that.
And something it pairs very well with is a 3-mana 3/4 undead, no runes, life render. Battlecry, if your hero's health changed this turn, deals 6 damage to an enemy minion. It's a spider tank that deals 6 to something, right? Which removes most things at that point in the game. You could change your life total with blood draw. You could change your life total with a weapon swing.
You can also heal, right? Like you can also play leeches, and your health will, your health won't change. That doesn't really work because that's at end of turn. But
right,
you can play vampiric blood,
but like Steel Ziliax or whatever, right? Would also do the trick. So we've seen these things in Priest and Warlock before. It's new in Death Knight, but it's not a new. Like, if your hero's health change this turn is not a new line of text that we haven't seen on a Hearthstone card before.
Yeah, and I think like how playable they are is always contingent on like how much we want to play the activators. And so Blood Draw is certainly the most appealing activator there because typically like the weapon you're using, Foam Render, wants to go face. But there's ways of doing it. I don't know how much this like is worth a card slot, but it's an interesting tool. And then miscellaneous
it's at least a decent stat line, but I mean we also had like a 4-mana minion in Priest and possibly Warlock with the same text that just said destroy a minion, and we had Raised Dead, which is much better than Blood Draw at the time, and that's almost 0 play when it was in standard.
And the rest of Death Knight's cards are sort of an amalgamation of stuff that I don't really understand direction. There's like a value 1 drop. There's a tempo 4 drop. That's a 4-mana 8/7, which is big, but it's Frost Unholy, and you no longer draw a card at the start of your turn. I don't know what aggressive deck we have, Frost Unholy, that wants to do this, but it is big.
I think that's really only there to give Wansamdi a big hit if you play it naked, right? Because it's going to summon 4 drops naturally, and so there's an 8/7 in the pool for you to potentially hit.
There's a lot of 4 drops. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's Time Stop, which is double Frost, deal 3 damage, freeze 2 random enemy minions. That, if there's going to be a Frost like burn deck, that is very, very good, right? Because it's against certain board states similar to like it's like a mini Frostworm's Fury. Like, no, you don't freeze their whole board, but it's just like deal 3 damage and buy time by freezing 2 of their minions. Like, that is perfect to keep a Slither Spear alive or some other kind of minions that you're trying to push with.
I was trying to build like a Freebooter and or Stegodon type of thing. Double Frost, 1 Unholy, and was having some trouble with it, but I think there might be something there because those decks are like almost there.
Yeah, so maybe there's something where you run Chrono Chiller, right? Where it's you can just have that 8/7 where it's like, well, now I'm not drawing cards, but this is hitting you really hard. And then you've got like the Crypt map or whatever for Discover Frost things. You've got Time Stop. There might be something there.
And I mean, there might be some weird fatigue strategy if we ever get fatigue back in Hearthstone again, where, I'm not saying, like, but
you could do something with like Stegodon and the Memoriam Manifest if you can avoid having a higher cost. Oh, is that undead or is it just a beast? The freebooter is undead, but it's only 3 mana, so having it be your highest cost is really limiting in terms of the rest of your cards. I was sort of trying to do that, but it's hard because you can't even play like Chillfallen Baron
right
if you do that. But there could be something, or this is a card also that could set us up for future.
Yeah. And then there's a double Unholy 6-cost shadow spell, Shadows of Yesterday. Rewind, summon 4 3/2 shadow or 3/2 shades. They each gain 2 random bonus effects. So if you don't like the bonus effects you roll the first time, you can roll again. I feel like the thing you're trying to hit is multiple rushes. I don't know that has a home either. It's kind of a weird set for DK. I don't know that I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think this is more sort of how it feels like we used to get cards in Hearthstone expansions, where like there's not like a big overarching package of stuff that like all has to work together.
It's more like a toolbox.
Yeah, and I think that is good for Death Knight because the runes are sort of more conducive to toolbox sort of thing, right? Like, if you're making a package of cards that are all the same kind of rune thing, like that's sort of doubly restrictive.
And also, Death Knight doesn't really need the help.
Well, sure. But it would be nice to be able to like try some more interesting and different directions with Death Knight. So hopefully some of these break through. It certainly looks like a few of them are quite powerful. I just wish I had something to point to where I was like, oh great, we can stop running Fire Rack. This is the win condition,
Yeah. Or starships.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
maybe in 6 months. Yeah.
4 months.
4 months. Yeah.
Still sounds like a lot of time when you say that. Well, 5 at this point because it hasn't come out yet.
Yes.
Well, I think that'll do it for Death Knight for now. We'll come back to everything when we get closer to theory crafting and all of that. And assuming that they do another pre-release sprawl, which they may or may not. But for right now, we also got some Paladin cards. Now, Paladin, we had already had some things revealed. We had the fabled card Gelbin of Tomorrow revealed, which was the mech that puts auras from your deck into your battlefield and came with a couple of auras. And we talked about a couple of other cards that had to do with auras that came with him. But there still are a few other cards, including a legendary to talk about. So the other legendary is the Fins Beyond Time. And this is a Murloc 2-mana 2/3. It's kind of like in a cloak and looking with this like smirk on his face and an hourglass. And it says, Battle Cry, replace your hand with your starting hand, swap back at the end of your turn. So I assume this works kind of like Secret Passage, except for it's your starting hand. And I haven't seen anything that says that if you started with Fins Beyond Time and you couldn't play him again, but I don't think that's game breaking because he's 2 mana every time to get a copy of something else that was in your starting hand. So I think that's probably fine.
I guess the question is, so if he was in your starting hand, you could just play him again?
Yeah, but like, what
there's only so many times
are we doing with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he costs 2. So we don't have anything right now that I can think of that would like break the game with. And if they did, I'm sure they would just change it that he doesn't get himself. Or maybe he doesn't. We don't know for sure, but I haven't heard anything that wouldn't be possible.
Opening hand, the Fins Beyond Time, Gelbin, and both his auras.
We did it.
So every time you can just like trade away the auras, and then no, I don't actually think this works. You would need a lot of mana.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like in Quest Paladin, it is a Murloc, so the first thought is Quest Paladin. But Quest Paladin starts with a quest already, and I don't think that stacks.
Yeah. If it didn't swap back at the end of your turn, right? If it was just like you replace your hand with your starting hand, like then you could just, if you had Fins Beyond Time in your hand, you could just play it to get that starting hand over and over again across different turns. But because it's restricted to swapping back at a turn, there's nothing too crazy you can do.
It might just be a little bit of refill for something more aggressive, or potentially a way to get a copy of something. If you can try to keep it in the mull or mull for it, and maybe get a copy of something, or just a way to be flexible of like, I don't like my hand right now. Usually cards that you have in your opening hand, you mold for things that are playable. So usually you'll get something that you can play with this.
Interesting. I don't know where the hell it fits, but I mean, it's access to cards that you know what they're going to be. You may not like them, but they're, you know what you're going to get, and if you have some reason to get another copy of it, then you can do this, but it also may lead to some risky mulligans if you're relying on this, and which you're probably not going to because it's a legendary, unless you have a way to tutor it out. And even then, that seems like a weird way to build your deck, especially given that sometimes you're not on the coin, you're only getting 3 cards. Like if you're on the coin, it's great because you're getting 4 cards and the coin. That's pretty good. If you're not on the coin, this is significantly worse.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of view it as like you put this in an aggressive deck, like Mengese was saying, and it's just it's like 3 card refill.
It's more
right?
gas.
Yeah. Later in the game, you top deck this, and you're like, okay, this is 3 more cards. Boom, boom, boom. That's another board. Deal with it.
Yeah. Maybe if we're doing even if we're doing an aura deck, like what you really want with Gelbin is auras in your deck, I guess, but you could get copies back of something. I guess with Lanessa, if you had something valuable with Lanessa in your opening hand, or even if you just had the coin, if you were on the coin.
Is the coin even in there? Because the coin doesn't enter your hand until after you've mulliganed.
So maybe not. I'm not sure, actually. Yeah. So maybe there's something there, but I think it's probably not consistent enough to be like a combo piece. Maybe we'll be proven wrong, but I can't think of what that would be.
It's like Starlight Whelp, right? We just ran Starlight Whelp sometimes because it happened to be a dragon that had some upside. And this is, I don't know that you're going to run it in Quest Paladin, but like if you have some sort of a menagerie Paladin and you need a Murloc, maybe you run that. Maybe you just don't care that it's a Murloc and you're just running it in like a control Paladin because you need something that was in your opening hand. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's a 2/3 that gets you some random jank that you happen to have there. Like, it doesn't seem broken. It seems fine.
Yeah. We also got sort of a grab bag of other things. Well, there were some mechs that we got. I've been trying to look at like what do we have in terms of mechs otherwise now, but some of the cards that we got Hard Light Protector, 2 mana, 2/1, Divine Shield, Battle Cry, restore 3 health to your hero, and give them Divine Shield.
Really nice.
Seems
good.
Nice, solid card.
If we play in like that aura deck, for example, then this is great to get a little early board and some stall. But I think it could fit in a lot of things. We have a holy spell, Neon Innovation, 3 mana, discover a paladin mech from the past, give it +5/+5.
Really garbage. Not 3 mana, discover a mech, like even with the buff, is 3 mana, do nothing the turn you play it. That's a tough sell.
Yeah. You still have to play it. And
Yeah. And we don't have a lot of like payoffs for mechs. Like Flickering Lightbot, I guess, is a mech that we have right now.
Well, and remember that anything that says from the past is an enormous pool. So the variance is just extremely high.
Well, I mean, Paladin mech does limit it quite a bit. There aren't that many Paladin mechs.
Still, from...
I think that like that's something that I'm morbidly curious now, so I want to just kind of look it up to see like how many we have, because I mean the pool on this does matter a little bit. So we have 31 total.
That's less than I thought,
and that's also including the ones from this set that are still standard legal, right? So like you still have like there are still things like SCV in there that are still and like BusyBot that are still legal. So like this is not necessarily filtering out everything, but like a Noyo module with +5/+5 in a mech focused deck that could be decent. You got like the Leviathan, Mechano Egg, a Noyo Troop are kind of, I mean, those are expensive, but there's also, like Bubblebot if we're in a mech deck. Bubblebot, Battlecry, give your other mechs Divine Shield and Taunt. So like, I don't know that this pool is small enough necessarily, but I think it's to the point where you could have a conversation at least about this and not be completely embarrassed by running it, depending on what the deck is. But I don't know that we have a mech paladin to run it in.
Right. I think ultimately it's just like, I think it would have to cost less and, probably give fewer stats in that case. But it's just, even if you are giving big stats, I feel like usually an upfront that is so high is a tough sell.
Yeah. I mean, it's 3 mana, do nothing when you play it.
Right.
Yeah. And right now we have a number of mechs in neutral. I guess the biggest like mech specific thing that we have going on is if you are Terran for Paladin, which has never really taken off, then that's like those are mechs. But yeah. Not a lot that's like cares about things being a mech specifically. So I think maybe it's just kind of like a lot of these things happen to be mechs because Gelbin kind of thematically goes with mechs more than we're supposed to like make a mech deck,
Right. Yeah. You've got
mech paladin's been a thing from time to time, and even if it's not a thing now, it could be this could enable one that's coming later.
Yeah. There's Tank Engineer, 4 mana 2/1 mech, Divine Shield, Deathrattle, summon a 7/7 tank with Divine Shield.
It's just Force Tanks Max, by the way.
Yes.
From Goblins versus Gnomes. That's the actual token that's coming out of it,
which
cool.
is an 8-cost card. So you're paying for a little Deathrattle dude that when it dies you get a big thing. It's a lot of stats. But the one that I think is sort of like most interesting here of the mech stuff is PMM Infinitizer. 6 mana 4/4, Battlecry, set of friendly minions attack and health to 8. It can't attack heroes this turn. Now this might still be sort of overcosted to do, but previously, we've seen Paladins use Blessing of Authority to give something +8/+8, but can't attack heroes this turn. It just generates a lot of stats. Now I think in that case with Blessing of Authority, we also had the Parrot to replay it. Right? So it was like you would do it to something if you stuck a minion, and then the Parrot would replay it. So you would have another wave of the big minion. But this, you do also get a 4/4 alongside. I don't know. I'm not optimistic about any of these mech cards, but that's the one I find sort of most intriguing.
I mean, that effect has been good.
Hard Light Protector, I think, is just a solid card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Separate from that, we also have a location. There's a sort of a series of these locations that are like past, present, and future. So the location improves over each use and 3 uses. This one is past Gnomergon, 2 mana. It starts with give a minion +2/+1, advance to the present. So when you use the location, that will use a durability and then advance it to present Gnomergon, which is give a minion +2/+1 and Deathrattle, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. And then it advances to the future, and now for future Gnomergon, it still gives the minion +2/+1, it still gives Deathrattle, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero, and it also grants Divine Shield.
This is really solid for an aggro deck. Yeah. So just consider that Hand of Adal is 2 mana, give minion +2/+1, draw a card, and you only do that one time.
It also doesn't take up a spot on your board, though.
How often right now are you filling your board?
In Paladin, quite a bit.
No, not right now because it's not being played, right?
No, but I mean that's the deck. That's the aggro deck that Paladin has is the one with Flash Sale and whatever. And
even the Crusader Aura deck is not filling their board, right? You Crusader Aura if you have 3 minions to attack with. So just the fact that you can like play 1-drop, play this to start hitting, and then you're going to have those activations later on. I mean, think of it like the the priest location, right? Where whenever you got that on curve, and that was 3 mana, gives something +2/+1. Drew a card, which obviously
I mean that's the thing. That's the important thing though, is that it was drawing you a card. Like that's the reason you were playing it more so than for the buff.
Well, in the decks that you played, that's the reason why you're playing it.
That's
in the
fair.
decks that I played, they were equally important. I think the important thing to keep in mind here is on the turn that you play it, it costs 2 mana for +2/+1. But on future turns, it's free.
Yeah.
And for an aggro deck, getting that buff and a little bit of extra damage on those future turns for free is pretty big. Like, that's the advantage that a location gives you, is that future uses don't cost you anything.
And the fact that the times where you don't get to curve it out, it's only 2 mana is like still quite good.
Yeah, some of the other past, we'll talk about the past, future, or the past, present, future locations otherwise that we've gotten are
some of them could stay in the past.
More expensive. And that makes it a lot harder to be bullish on them. But this one's cheap. So even if you get it later, that's not necessarily, like, obviously it's best early, but it might still be fine to get later.
The Go Wide Paladins right now, the aggro Paladins, do not run Hand of a Doll. I think they would run this.
I could see it. Okay. You convinced me that it's not complete trash.
All right, well, I think now that you've waited through 2 classes, Wicked.
I've been very patient. I have been very patient.
So patient. It is time for quite a preset.
It is time for one of the best priest legendaries we've seen since Titans, I would say. Well, let's start with the let's just do it, right? The fabled priest legendary is Medivh the Hallowed, who costs 10 mana, and boy does he get you your 10 mana's worth. So he actually costs 0, but that's okay. But he's 10 mana. He comes with Atiesh the Greatstaff and Karazhan the Sanctum. And he costs 0 if you control Karazhan the Sanctum is a location. He costs 0 if you control Karazhan. He's a 10 mana 7/7. Battle cry, silence, and destroy all other minions. My favorite 6 words in the history of Hearthstone. So he does wipe out your board as well. It's not enemy minions, it's all other minions. So that is relevant, especially if you're doing any sort of death rattle things yourself. You do have to be a little bit careful, but it is the mother of all oh crap buttons. And the only thing it could do that's more than that is actually poof them, because they do come back from resurrect, but otherwise no death rattles trigger, it clears the board, and you have a 7/7, which is exactly what you want. Karazhan the Sanctum is a 10 mana location that costs 0 if you're welding Atiesh, so they all kind of help each other come down. So if you can get all 3 of them down in one turn if you have them all in your hand. It costs 0 if you're welding Atiesh. It has 2 durability, and it summons 2 random 8 cost minions. That is fine. I mean, being able to do that after you've played Medivh is good. That's just kind of a build the board. Random minions are not always good, but you're not gonna scoff at 2 8-drops for 10 mana.
Well, and I think the big one too, right, is that you can play Karazhan for 10.
Yeah.
Silence and destroy all minions with Medivh, and then summon your 2 8 cost, right? Yep. So now you've got a 7/7 and 2 8 costs.
Yeah.
And that's pretty well worth 10 mana, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can also just play that by itself, get 2 8-drops. And then later on, you can just leave the other activation around, right? As long as you don't get Demolition Renovated, then you can just leave that around. And as long as you're willing to give up the 1 spot on your board, which if you're playing this kind of a priest, you probably have room on your board. And then you can just play Medivh for free whenever you want. It's kind of daring your opponent to say, do you have it or not? Like the rest of the game, because you could just drop that for free and then play your whole turn.
There is a card, Busy Peon, which has Death Rattle. Your next location costs 2 less. It's a 2 mana 2/3.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's an option to start this chain. It does require you to start with the location, but it allows you to do it a little earlier if you get the location. But we should say what Atiesh does.
Yeah, Atiesh costs 0 if you control Medivh. Double the damage and healing of all your spells. So it is Velen on a stick, literally.
It is a 1/3 weapon.
A
Yes.
1/3 weapon.
Velen on a stick.
And the 1 does not matter because you ain't never swinging with this thing if you can help it. So, I mean, there are some spells in Priest that deal damage. We were going through them because, of course, when Megasa sees double damage on a Priest card, we're going to go figure all that out. So, I mean, there are things like Moonwell. You can get the rock off of that Murloc. There are a few other things that will give...
There's Mixologist.
So there are ways to get damage, but it's probably going to be more healing. Now, notably, this is not the full Velen text because it does not say of your spells and hero power. So it will not help your hero power heal you for 4. That is important because that was when we did have that. Sometimes that was relevant. And certainly if it's on a weapon that's never going away as opposed to a Velen that you need to protect, that is sometimes more important. But I don't think we have any damage, any things that flip healing into damage in standard right now. I think those all rotated, but we could get more of those. That's been a thing that they've done for Priest. But even just like, hey, double healing, if you're running even just like a Holy Nova heal you for 4, or we even have things like Greater Healing Potion is effectively a Reno. It's like 24 healing. That's a card that we unironically run in some Priest decks right now, especially like Quest Priest will run that. So
Quest Priest, which at least I did okay with, and there's a ton of healing in that. Like I actually got through the healing event quest with Quest Priest.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't have lifesteal and it doesn't have leeches. One thing with Atiesh, we were having a debate about whether it'll work with Fyrakk, so I went in to face the Innkeeper with a wild deck that had the original Prophet Velen and Fyrakk and like a way to resurrect Velen so that they'd be on the board at the same time. And Velen did double Fyrakk's spells damage, so presumably this will work the same. Sometimes there can be the same text and it doesn't work the same in Hearthstone because it's not magic, but presumably it'll be the same. So if you have this out and then you play Fyrakk later, it will do more damage.
And this is a 10 for your release, so maybe you're running that same package, but yeah.
Yeah, I do think it'll be an Elise deck. I think there's a possibility that yes, maybe you run Fyrakk, right? Because actually, yeah, you definitely run Fyrakk. Who am I kidding? But I think the fact that you can also go Grifta, Mixologist. I don't know if you do the Murloc for the rocks, right? But
you're running Shaladricil. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do Shaladricil. You're not necessarily gonna have all these things to like consistently be ending games with huge burn turns of like 60 damage. But I think you'll be doing like this value Elise control-y game that sometimes ends the game with 30 damage.
I think the 4 mana shadow spell that deals 4 damage with lifesteal, I think that's back in core, right?
Void Shard, yeah.
Yeah, Void Shard. So I mean that's 8 damage, 8 healing in that deck, which is pretty good.
Yeah. So if this ends up being powerful enough, right, then we're doing acupuncture, we're doing hot coals, right? If you've got like a Blood Mage Thalnos and you hot coals acupuncture, that is 10 damage from the acupuncture, and then the hot coals would do what? 2 and then 3, so that's another 10, right? Because doubling all that. So
actually, I think Void Shard heals you for 16, right? Because it deals
you double
8,
the damage and then you double the
life
healing.
Steal gets doubled again, right? So it's deal 8, heal 16. That's really good. Yeah.
If we're really going into this, you can Tyrande before you start doing this.
Yes.
If we're really, really doing it, there's Priest Aviana. There's that card Twilight Medium that sets the top card of your deck to 1. You can use things like Narain to see what's on the top. You can use the Sharp-Eyed I keep wanting to say
Sharp-Eyed
Sharp-Eyed
Lookout?
Scout, but it's actually Sharp-Eyed Lookout. Yeah, that tells you what's the next card that you're going to draw. There's also Overplanner if you really want to do that. But you can always like draw patches, right? Like you can draw the 10-drop before you get this going. Someone pointed out Envoy of Prosperity is a 2-mana 4/4 that no one has ever played on purpose that puts the highest cost card in your hand back on top of your deck. So you get one of these. If you get all these in hand and one of them costs 1 mana, the rest of them are free. So you pay 1 mana for all of them, and then you can do whatever you're doing with the rest of your mana. I haven't figured out how we're theory crafting this yet. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but that is like an avenue to look at for trying to either OTK with this, or just it might still be worth it if we're playing a deck with a really heavy top end. We've got Shaladrisil, we've got 3 10-drops, we've got Fyrak. Maybe we just want to make any of the above cost 1 mana.
Yeah.
If we're playing Moonwells and Tyrande, like almost anything you hit is going to be good.
Yeah, or we just play Aviana, make everything cost 1 mana, and then we don't have to worry about it, right? So
you could make Aviana herself cost 1 mana, and then...
I mean, we still also we could play Parrot Sanctuary, right? So theoretically, you could even get Medivh down on 7 if you really want to. We've done that with Aviana. It's not the best use of Parrot Sanctuary, but it's something. But yeah, this is this is going to be in probably every Control Priest going forward. That Battle Cry has been very good. We paid 9 mana just for a spell to do that, and it didn't come with a 7/7 and a weapon. So yeah, that's
this is like what I hoped for out of all the Fabled cards, right? Yes. It was like, okay, this is a win condition, right? This is a thing you are doing that is specific to your class. That, like, yes, it's a little more support-y, right? But like Atiesh is a win condition, and yeah, so I like that, and I think that's definitely going to get me playing a fair amount of Priest, assuming it works.
Yeah. So the other things that are maybe not as sold on, we'll see how those work. It's a little bit harder. I mean, I'm interested in them, but I'm not sure how it's going to work in practice. We've got kind of a health hand buff theme going on with the other legendary and a number of cards in the set. So the other legendary that Priest has is Eternus, which is a 6/2 dragon for 6 mana. That says Battle Cry, take control of an enemy minion with this minion's health or less. So it starts out at 6/2, which is, I mean, you can damage it to get its health down, right, and then take it. That is a thing, but really we're trying to give this a big butt and then take whatever we want. So we've got things like Power Word Barrier, give it 2 mana Holy Spell, give a character Divine Shield, give minions in your hand +2 health. There's Disciple of the Dove, Battle Cry, draw a minion, give minions in your hand +2 health.
I think we're playing her 3 mana 2/2 that draws a minion and has an upside. Yep.
Yeah,
done.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good enough to just play. That's fine. There's Divine Augur, which is a 5 mana 5/5 Draenei. Battle Cry, set the attack and health of every minion in your hand to the higher of the 2 stats. So, there was, I don't know how the comparison to Lady in White came about in the Discord. Lady in White is not a hard bar to clear. It is sitting on the floor, and this is probably better than that if we have anything.
I think it's definitely better than that. The question is it good? And it got brought up because Schwal specifically said that you would be getting flashbacks of Lady in White. And wanted
Lady in White
was
in
specifically.
deck, right? And so Lady in White was like 6 mana, do nothing, right? And this is technically 5 mana, do nothing, but at least it's affecting cards that are in your hand immediately, and it's affecting both stats also, right? Lady in White was specifically set attack equal to its toughness, which meant that if you had anything that was aggressively statted, it would actually nerf it. This cannot fail. It's at the worst, it does nothing if you have something that's evenly statted. but it's going to make the lower stat higher in every other case, and then you can just play those cards immediately. So if we care about these types of effects, this is a very good card. I just don't know if we're going to be playing enough of these effects to play this, but if we are, then this is going to be, it's going to be useful.
Right. I mean, just Divine Augur into Eternus, right? It's a 6/6. You can steal a decent amount of stuff. Now,
and you can damage stuff. You can Vol'jin to get health down, and then maybe you just care about the death rattle or something on it. You can. There's some other cards that are not in here, like Divine Star. Deal 3 damage, give a minion in your hand plus 3 health. It is a random one. It's not all of them, unfortunately, but like that is a card that exists right now. Landing some of this on Archaeos, which is the 3-mana 1/6 that gives its health to everything else on your board when it attacks. That doesn't help the legendary, but if you buff that's health, it's already pretty high, then your stuff just never dies.
Yeah.
So
and stealing is like, everything that I'm seeing here is, okay, how can we deal with death rattles, which has been a problem, right? The way we deal with death rattles is we silence them if they're not running recursion, or we take them if they are running recursion. This is how I built Control Priest in the cube lock meta, where I would just take the cube and then nothing ever came back, and then it was fine, and then we didn't have to worry about it anymore. So like that is an answer to starships potentially. I mean, starships is going to be tough because the toughness on that gets high. That's where you might have to damage it. But if you want to take that and then get all the armor and all the death rattles, right? That is a legitimate thing that you can do. If we're taking an Egg of Kalos, right? That is something that is a relevant thing to be able to do. So these are all things that we've sorely needed to be able to deal with, just like what we have in the meta right now. We haven't really had any good tools, and this is also giving a reason to play Priest, which is that you will have some tools to be able to deal with these things when the meta calls for it.
Well, and you have one more tool, right? That doesn't fall into any particular sort of packaging.
Yeah. Oh, I should just kind of before we get to that, I should just round out the health hand buff thing with Cleansing Light Spawn, which is a 2/3 life steal with Battle Cry, deal damage to an enemy minion equal this minion's health. Right, which is also, if you're buffing health in hand, that both heals you and removes something. So yeah.
It is 4 mana. We had the gyro something elemental that did 5 life
Spawn. Was it Gyro Spawn? No.
I always liked that card, but it was always like a little bit on the edge of meta, so I don't know about Cleansing Light Spawn because it costs 4 for a 2/3, but if it gets a lot of health, it could potentially heal you quite a bit. There's also Amber Priestess, 2 mana, 1/4 taunt, battle cry, restore health to a character equal to this minion's health.
Yeah.
Not as sure about that one, but it is a defensive tool.
It's a taunt that heals you for 4. That might be fine, and if you can make it bigger, then great. But yeah, we do have some more. Okay, let's get the location out of the way first because it's bad, and then we can just not talk about it again. Which is Past Conflux. It's 7 mana, 3 durability. Past Conflux summons a random dragon that costs 5 or more, advance to the present. The present one is discover a dragon that costs 5 or more and summon it, advance to the future, which is discover a dragon that costs 5 or more and summon it, also get a copy of it. Sure. We're not... You need to spend the 7 mana on the first proc in order to live to get the other 2, and that's... If you can spend 7 mana to get a dragon that maybe costs 7, especially when a lot of the dragons have battle cries, like, you know, you're already winning. You're fine. You don't need this.
It doesn't even help with Zarimi because let's play.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, the last one will, because you get a copy of it finally. But yeah. So the other cards that are better, Cease to Exist is a 3 mana spell with no spell school with Rewind. Silence and destroy a random enemy minion. Yep. Again, silence and destroy are like peanut butter and chocolate. Like, those are things that we want together. 2 great tastes that taste great together, and you get a second chance if you don't hit the right one. If there's only one on board, you'll always kill it. If there are more than one, you can get it down to 2, maybe get a coin flip at it. It's not necessarily guaranteed, but yeah, this is a good use of Rewind, and it is good to be able to do that, and it also should be able to target things that can't otherwise be targeted. Yeah,
So
or
yes.
hit things that aren't otherwise targetable, like elusive.
Right. You can kill Tortola with this.
Yes, which is also makes me happy. So
it's another way, and sometimes they like only have a starship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or it's a starship plus
or a gray bow
Exodar.
or something like that. Yeah.
Well, or I think really common, right? At least that I have seen and been frustrated with is the 7/5 demon that resurrects the Arcanite defense crystals, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They'll
Screw
just
that guy.
Drop that on 7, and you're like, nope.
Yeah. That guy sucks. Yeah, let's get rid of him. Yeah, that's even better.
It gives some counterplay to the opponent, but it's not always easy counterplay to the opponent.
Right.
So,
and you have some ways, like you could, if they put up a board of 1/1s, you could Holy Nova first or whatever. Like there are ways to get around that too and make the odds better. And you do get 2 shots out of it. The only thing is that, again, you need to account for that animation time. So whatever you're doing, you need to do quick to make sure that you have enough time to do it and then see what happens and then react to it and rewind. So, Intertwined Fates Intertwined Fate, singular, is a 3-mana spell. Discover a copy of a card from your deck and one from your opponent's. So that'll work. Yep. Yeah. Identity Theft was a card. And
it sure was.
And even Madame Lazul is a card that gets played every so often, and it's fine. And I'm sorry, Sidisi, because I know that's one of his favorite things is having his own cards used against him. But also the flavor text just to rub salt in the wounds is just imagine dragons. So
also, discovering a copy of a card from your deck, it's not only not only getting you something from your deck, but a copy. In some of these decks that we've been talking about, we have some pretty high value stuff that you could get more of.
You could get another Medivh.
Get another Fire Rack.
Yeah, I mean it is Shadow Visions, not Thrive in the Shadows.
Yeah.
And I mean, we run Thrive in the Shadows, right? I mean, that's only hitting spells, not any card in your deck, which is a wider pool, but also generally you want the cards in your deck, you pick them, and often, not always, but usually the cards that are in your opponent's deck are good for you too. Sometimes you run into like a Quest Paladin and they're all fish and you don't care, but a lot of the time you can find something that's good out of 3 and then use that against them, and that's fine too. So this is something the Priest has kind of gotten away from, which I know some people are very happy about, but also like the whole Thought Steal thing is something that's part of Priest's identity that's been missing. So getting a little bit of that back, we don't need it to be like Thief Priest. We don't need to go that far, but at least like getting a little bit of that back for flavor is nice to get back to that.
And Rogue has a bit of that right now with Nightmare Fuel. So
yeah.
At least it's not literally taking it from them.
Right. Yeah.
And it's only the one card. I mean, they could run 2 copies, but it's only it's not a Thief
discover
Priest.
A copy of the other Intertwined Fate in your deck.
So
right, we had best move on before Edelweiss just drops out of the call.
Yeah.
All right, last one, Hunter. So we already talked about Ranger General Sylvanas, who looks awesome. That was the one where you have her and Ilaria and Verisa, and they all improve with each other. We also have another legendary, which I feel like everybody in the Discord was more bullish about this than I was, even though I play aggro. But
maybe you were in the Discord at a different time than I was, because it was the Malak Haters Club when I was in the Discord today. So
maybe they all got it out of their system.
Yeah.
So keeping with kind of our like alternate universe theme for some of these legendaries, we have King Malak. Is a 4-mana 5/6 beast with Battlecry. Discard your hand, get an infinite banana. So an infinite banana is just a banana that stays in your hand. 1 mana, give a minion +1/+1, stays in your hand. So it's like a drink, but it doesn't run out of uses, and I assume that it will, like a drink, stay in the same place in your hand. That's how like Svalna's spell worked.
Yeah, and spell and twin spell and everything else like this. And it is also, by the way, a banana that's twisted into a sideways 8. We just for those of you who are not watching the video or otherwise can't see the art, it is a banana in a sideways 8 that is an infinity symbol. So
pretty great.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is an infinite banana. Yeah, so you discard your hand. That's a tough sell even for aggro, right? Like 4 mana 5/6. Usually you want to play that on curve, but you probably, even though we have some other things in this set we'll talk about that reward you for having a small hand, you probably don't have no hand on 4. And you get, so the best case scenario, this is the argument for it. You have a board, maybe you're not on 4, maybe it's a little bit later, you're mostly out of stuff, you play this, and then if anything sticks, you have essentially burst damage equal to your mana, right? Because you can play +1/+1 for each of your amounts of mana. But you kind of need it to like finish them because or just get really, because like the problem with no cards in hand is you can't save draw for it. You have to just hope that you top deck the draw. So yeah, I don't know what to think of this card.
I feel like this might end up being sort of sneaky good for exactly what you described, that from there on after you always have burst equal to your mana. I think that alongside Arrow Retriever, right, which is a 2-mana 3/1 beast, draw until you have 3 cards. Like when you have multiple incentives for just puking onto the field and going into top deck mode, I think that you enter a world where like you will build your deck to maximize those things, and we might genuinely get Face Hunter again. Because like a quick shot's in core, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And quick shot is also an empty hand incentive.
Oh. Quick shot doesn't work with this though, because your hand will never be empty.
They don't pair well together, but I think you're okay if you've gotten this off, right? It's more just like more things that are like okay if you don't have a hand.
And you don't have to play this on curve, right? Like I know you want, if you're playing an aggressive deck, like you really want to, but like you can just play out your hand and play this on like 6 or 7 and then use the bananas immediately. You don't have to play this on 4. So like if you're playing an aggressive enough deck, like it doesn't have to be like, Goblins versus Gnomes Face Hunter, which would just dump its hand immediately and then hope to get quick shot to draw more. Like if it's, getting rid of enough, you've got a couple of cards that don't do anything in the mid to late game anyway. You dump those and then you get the banana and you start sending the damage face. Maybe that's good enough. Or maybe it's like you play it as a finisher and you get them down to the point where you need like 4 to 5 damage to finish off, and then you use this to get the rest of the way. Like I don't know how you build with this, but it doesn't strike me as terrible. It strikes me as a deck building challenge that that is an actual deck building challenge, as opposed to just put one of everything that says this into your deck and then you win, right? Like if it does actually strike me as like, how do you get to a point where you can play a 4 mana 5/6 and then just make every one of your minions that sticks a threat? And those kinds of decks, like Inner Fire Priest, have been very effective in the past. Now, this is not Inner Fire. This is not Divine Spirit Inner Fire. I recognize that. But it is the point where a deck like this is going to be able to churn out a bunch of minions with whatever they're top decking. And then every single one of those demands removal at that point, because all of a sudden it can hit you for 6 or 7 or 8 or 10. And that is legitimately scary when you're on the other end of that.
So if you have this and you have Niall, you immediately get a draw, right? If you've already played Niall.
Yeah.
Story of Carnassa shuffles in a bunch of cycles that will get you a bunch of 3/2s potentially without filling your hand up. We have Fetch, we have Master's Call if we only have beasts. that can draw 3 beasts. So we do have some, there's Bargain Bin. I just searched draw in Hunter. And then we have things that discover out of your deck, of course. So there are ways to draw. You have to balance that with having stuff that you can vomit out ahead of, stats on the board. But
this could legitimately be a Chromie deck, right? Because
actually.
Because you put the problem with Chromie is that you need the death rattle to trigger, but if that Chromie is 10 attack, it's gonna get removed, right? Or your opponent's gonna die, and either way you're happy, right? So that could legitimately be a use case for Chromie in a deck like this, where we looked at it why would you do this? But this could make that useful in that kind of a deck.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's always hard to know where something fits in to the future when we've only got sort of current meta decks to go off of, and would you put this in Beast Hunter today? I don't know, right? I do think you sort of have to build a little bit differently. But even outside of having card draw, I think just having a deck where yes, suddenly all your top decks are, I don't know, where you can do a lot with a top deck of the one that gives you all 3 animal companions, right? You top deck that, you play out Leok and Misha, and now you're sitting on an infinite banana and a Huffer, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And if we ever get anything in Hunter that cares about you casting spells, right? Deal 1 damage every time you cast it. But we've had that, right? Arrowsmith or something. Didn't that do that? I don't remember. But there are cards that care about casting spells, and if you get these in Hunter and Standard again, this is infinite spells for 1 mana, that's pretty good, right? So I think I don't know what the use case is. I'm not smart enough to break it, but it doesn't feel terrible to me. It feels like there's a use case that just may not be immediately apparent. It may not even be for this expansion.
And I think it's worth noting that there's the aggro decks, the face hunters that we've come to think about, right? That have to kill you in previous metas by turn 5, turn 6, right? You think of face hunter in the old days, or current aggro demon hunter, where it's they must kill you fast because they, at a certain point, they don't have enough. I think the point of something like this is to give something aggressive that enough, right, to go a bit later if they're forced to go later, right?
Yeah, or even if you're trying to kill on 5, you play this on 4. If it sticks, it's got 5 attack in, and you have 5 more damage on turn 5.
Yeah.
If that's the kind of thing you're playing. But I think often, we're playing it later if we need a little bit more gas later.
I mean, if everything in your deck is a minion, and they're all 8/8s, 9/9s, 10/10s every turn, as long as you can afford to get to that point, then maybe that doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you're top decking. If you're presenting a 10/10 every single turn, that is, depending on what those minions do, right? That is still I can tell you as a control deck look at Quest Paladin. That's going wide with a bunch of those things. It's not just one, but it still demands removal, or Quest Warlock, right? Where it's 2 medium-sized minions that are somewhat difficult to remove, but it's every single turn, right? That adds up after a while, and control decks do not have infinite removal.
Yeah, well, and this hopefully, if this is making an aggro deck more playable, and again, we'll have to see it. If we have enough things that make top decking feel better, if this is just making it, what people hate about aggro decks is running out of gas, top decking, and then slowly losing to a control player, especially if you don't concede fast enough.
I feel attacked, but yes, continue.
If we can have a deck where we have planned lots of ways to do well with the top decking, or you top deck 1 minion, but it's big because you spent the rest of your mana making it big, and you don't have as much of that top deck feels bad, then that will make that, those decks tend to be a little bit more popular. So
you're playing 1 card a turn, but you're not passing with 6 to 7 mana unspent. There is a difference there.
And it's worth mentioning, like, so we've talked about this. We briefly mentioned the arrow retriever that draws until you have 3 cards, right? Reminiscent of Empty Hand Demon Hunter, right? There's also 3 face damage cards that we should mention.
Yes. So we have Precise Shot, 2 mana, deal 3 damage. If this is exactly in the center of your hand, deal 5 instead. So you have to have an odd number of cards and it has to be in the middle. But if it's the only card in your hand, then obviously it's in the center. If you have 3, it's in the center. 5, it's in the center. Deal 5 is a lot, and even 2 mana deal 3 to the face is like not terrible if it gets in a position where it can't be in the center of your hand. And you just need to play it. But like, that's a kill command for 2 mana.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing it in the Malik deck, right? The scenario is you draw it, you pass, and because the banana is always on the left. The banana is always going to be on the far left because you've discarded your hand and there's only 1 card in it, right? So,
Right.
So I don't know if it works in that deck because your scenario is I am taking a turn off to get 2 more damage next turn.
I mean,
Unless
that's
you have
not
a minion
unheard
on
of.
board. Yeah.
It's not unheard of, right? But it's you're going into hero power pass on that turn, which is not what you want to be doing. It's great if you're a control priest. It's not so good if you're an aggro hunter.
Yeah. And look, if you haven't gotten King Malik, or if it doesn't make the cut, and you top deck Precise Shot, it is 5 damage, right? 1 card is exactly in the middle of your hand.
Yeah. So if it's your only card, or the fewer cards you have, the easier it is to position it. Or if we're just running a low curve, the easier it is to position it. I do think it's a little harder than Outcast, but it's still deal 2 damage, deal 3 damage face if you can't get it to work. We also have Quel'Dorai Fletcher, which is a 1 mana 1/3. Your hero power costs 0 while your hand has 3 or less cards.
2 more damage.
I was looking at it's just 2 damage for 0.
It means you're getting to use your hero power and use all your mana to play bananas. That's what that means.
or other cards, yes.
Well,
Yeah.
presumably you're top decking, right? So like presumably you've played this after Malik. You top deck this, you play it, you still get to hero power.
I don't think we have to play this after Malik.
Right.
Yeah.
There is a world, right, where Malik is not good enough, but you still are incentivized by Precise Shot, Quel'Dorai Fletcher, and Arrow Retriever, and like, yeah, you've just are entering top deck mode and have a free hero power, and that lets you sort of have a little bit more expensive cards or whatever, right? Or if you get all 3 animal companions, right? That's 8 mana worth of stuff. So you can play all of it out more quickly.
So this is probably not. This could be good in a Discover Hunter, but Discover Hunter is almost never going to have less than 3 cards in hand by the way that it works. So,
right.
Yeah, you could have Nael in just if we're having a Malik deck, you could have Nael just so that Malik you can draw a card after you play him, and then the tracking is free. Yeah, I don't know if we're going that far deep. We also have some other cards. So we have a card that like can go face with a Wormhole, 3 mana, rewind, summon a random 3-cost beast. It attacks a random enemy.
It always goes face if they don't have anything in play.
Yeah.
Sure.
And if they do, you get 2 shots to hit what you want. So, seems like it could be good. And we have. I like the secret. So the secret is kind of interesting. 2 mana, Untimely Death. Secret: when a friendly minion dies the turn after being played, resummon it. So like if you play this on 2, and then you play Neri on 3, she will stick.
It's very spooky.
Yeah.
As long as she doesn't get hexed,
as long as she doesn't get hexed or ceases to exist.
No, even if she ceases to exist, I think she still gets resummoned because she just gets silenced and destroyed, and then she gets resummoned. But hex would be
literally
like
have to be
thing.
hex.
Hexed or stolen, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't play her first and then play this to make sure that she sticks. But if you do it in the the Untimely Death first, then you can make sure something sticks.
Or if you have anything else on board, right? that also, like, you have to make sure you're only playing that one minion that turn.
On the same turn. You can have other things from previous turns.
Right.
Well,
so, like,
it's worth noting that it is just played,
not
right?
summoned.
Right, exactly. So, you can curve Untimely Death into Wormhole and then still, play your other minion later that you want to make sure sticks. I could see a world, maybe a Neri deck, or if there's anything else you sort of specifically want to be able to stick around where you are like mostly spells. But then, you want to be able to say, okay, I for sure want to have a turn with this. Yeah, Neri is probably like the number one thing that comes to mind because there's really silly stuff you can do with that.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm realizing looking at this, it doesn't say resummon it at the start of your next turn.
No, it's resummoning it right away. So you do your opponent will get a second opportunity if they can kill it to kill it. If they have more minions to trade it off, or they have another spell to kill it, they can still kill it. It doesn't guarantee it's coming back. It's not like that. It's not coming back dormant like that. I forget what that other thing was that Hunter had once upon a time. That's not the name of it. Just like a few years ago.
I guess I was thinking that the way it would work, because I'm so used to like these secrets triggering at the start of your turn when there's some stuff, right? That it would be like at the start of your turn, it would check if the minion died on your opponent's turn and then summon it for you.
How I was reading it until just now, and then I realized, oh wait, but it would still make Neri have essentially 10 health instead.
Well, and certainly if you are curving Untimely Death into Neri, that is a very good curve because removing 5 health twice on 3 is just not happening.
It does make it harder. It definitely makes it harder. It just doesn't make it it's not a guarantee is all.
That's probably for the best, honestly. For the health of the meta, because otherwise it's real spooky.
Yeah, I guess.
It would be cool though. We have the location. I don't see.
Yeah.
What we're doing this for. 4 mana, past Silver Moon, deal 5 damage to a random enemy minion. When it advances to the present, that it still does 5 damage to a random enemy minion, but now excess hits the enemy hero, and in future Silver Moon, it now targets the lowest health enemy minion for that 5 damage, and excess still hits the enemy hero. 4 mana for this.
Yeah, so like 2 out of the 3 can deal face damage, but 4 mana is tough.
Eventually, like 5 turns later, it's...
Yeah, I mean, I think it is very evident throughout this, even though I will say, from what we've seen so far, I am much more optimistic about this expansion, certainly than the last one. But even then, the tree one, right? Even then the imbue one, this set is shaping up to look better than that set. But it's still very clear that there's an intent to keep the game slowed down.
Yeah, even with having a sort of face damage-esque Hunter here. But I think also another thing that I am liking about these sets is that they're not all one thing or bust. I think some of them, like the Death Knight, feels a little bit like I don't know exactly where we're going with this, but it does feel like the kind of thing where after launch it's going to take a while for people still discovering things to do with these cards, and they'll pop up again in later expansions, and there's just like not so this package works or it doesn't.
Fabled really helps, right? Because the Fabled card is one card, right, in terms of the out of 135 that are in the expansion, but they get to give that one card a whole sort of package to go with it.
It's a very interesting way to get around having to build packages for both legendaries, or sometimes not, and just have it be kind of its own thing. But Fabled is definitely opening up room for them to like, okay, we'll give the other legendary a small package. Like clearly they're doing that. Like there's like 3-4 card packages for the non-Fabled legendary, and then that opens up room to just print some cards that are just maybe they're generally good now, maybe they'll be generally good later, but they're they don't have to fit into X deck in order to be played, right? They're tools, and we need some toolbox type cards also to be able to not be kind of trapped in the paradigm that we've been in. So I do like the direction. I don't know how it's going to feel, but I do like the direction that they're taking the design of this set, even if it doesn't necessarily change the power level substantially.
Yeah. I don't think we've mentioned every card, but is there anything else that we wanted to talk about here?
I guess
guess
Stalker has the scary word summon a copy of this on it. So it's a 6-mana 3/4 Russian elusive battlecry, summon a copy of this. Anytime you see that can get spooky, especially because we still have Cup of Muscle and Reserved Spot available to Hunter, at least for the time being. So getting all that on, it's a 6-drop, so it's not necessarily as quick, but that can get very fast into a minion that's very hard to interact with. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, the elusive is a big deal, right? And even if you just bird watching into it, right? That's a pair of 5/5 rush elusives. It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
If we had Imbue Hunter, if Imbue Hunter wasn't just like a random minion and so problematic in that sense, it would be good for that. But I don't know that it's so good that it's reviving Imbue Hunter.
But Handbuff Hunter has been a thing. It's been a real deck, right? And this could, I don't know if this necessarily revives it, and I'm sure that if it does, it'll very quickly say summon an Epoch Stalker if it's that good. But
it's less likely to just be a scam deck though, because it's 6 mana.
Yeah.
Right.
If we see this with a hand buff,
well,
it would have to be a little different.
They already hit the cost reduction one, right? It went from 3 mana to 4 mana. So, if you can on 4 give this +4/+4 and reduces cost by 2, right? But it might be able to revive that deck to be less of a I'm going to scam out huge stats and more of a I'm going to do a few waves of huge stats, right? And if this is the last one and they can't interact with it because of the elusive, then maybe there's something there.
Yeah. And that at least makes it a little bit more interactive if you don't need to worry as much about the first wave as the last one, right? The last one always being the one that either they don't have another one or it kills you, one or the other, right? Then that might make it a little bit more interesting to play against than the Handbuff Hunters that we got.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, that basically does it. So we have many folks to like to thank. Check out the thanks section on the website at Concede.com. You can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Follow us on Blue Sky at CoinConcede. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@CoinConcede. And if you'd like some CC swag someday soon, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com.
And also, again, on October 15th, we're going to have our card reveal. And this is one where we've actually get to do it live instead of pre-recording it and then trying to manage a stream like at least the last one. I don't know about the last. I don't remember if it was the last couple, but I know the last one was while I was on a plane to BlizzCon. So I'm excited to actually get to reveal this live rather than having to record it and then see people's reactions afterwards. So
cool. So other coin concedes.
Well, I will coin concede to Sidisi because I queued into him while I was playing the Elemental Mage, and he did not out me to the internet, and I appreciate that he was a gentleman about it. Even though I did kill him with I think I killed him with aggro. I'm pretty sure I did. He was playing Quest Hunter, as he is wont to do. But he did not out me to the internet as a dirty aggro player that's betrayed my control persona. So I do appreciate him being a gentleman about it.
Of course, now you've done just that. So,
I mean, it's one thing if I out myself, right? That's going out on my own terms. It's another thing if somebody else, outs me against my will. So.
Megasa?
I will coin concede to my husband because it's fun when he's playing Hearthstone and I get to see his reactions. He doesn't let me watch him play usually, unless he's like he really wants to like hit platinum. And he's like, all right, help me win this game. And then I'm nervous because you can't always, even at his MMR, you can't always win the game. Yeah, that's been fun. The ladder variety decks being there is really kind of what made it happen, even though he's just playing Elemental Mage. So I think that was great to offer that to people. Also, he pointed out a couple of shows ago on the Coin Concedes, I coin conceded to him also in part, or I had a story about how I had said, well, it doesn't really matter if I hit Legend. And he had been like, but the way that I told it, he listened to that part and he said, you didn't tell it as funny as I actually said it. Where he just like stopped, he raised his eyebrows and he goes, really? Really?
Are you sure about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to concede to Hidden Jester, who is very flexible and gracious. We had a coaching scheduled earlier, and I got some really bad news, and it just completely blanked because I was thinking about that. But he's been very gracious about the rescheduling and everything, and understanding that these things happen. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and death to Kronos. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.